Welcome to the DTM season review of 1993. And indeed, cause for celebration. Big manufacturers involved. 5 makes in all: Mercedes, Alfa, BMW, Opel and Ford. And the crowds, they just keep rising. The reason is, the stars are here as well. No longer are the tin tops seen as the minor option to open wheel racing. DTM really has arrived. Well, defending champion Klaus Ludwig taking his second title after 1988 when he won his first with Mercedes, and other star names as well: Bernd Schneider, Alessandro Nannini, Nicola Larini. Part of a star-studded lineup that just keeps the crowds pouring in. The ticket sales rising year on year. 1993, the 10th anniversary of DTM. Well, it's not just about metal, it's about rubber as well. Vying for superiority, Michelin, Bridgestone and Pirelli. A championship consisting of 11 races, 2 races at each track. So without further ado, let's get the 1993 season underway for you. So does Oldham, and guess what? It's raining. Nicola Larini in the Alfa is on pole ahead of the start of a very damp race. Rolling start then. And the wet tyres replacing the slicks right the way through qualification as well as into the race, and Larini keeping that first position. Not much movement through the field. Everyone taking it very easy early on. Well, the Alfa's apparently in supreme form. Larini going through and Alessandro Nannini taking second place. Alfa's 1 and 2 then. And since the arrival of Alfa Romeo, Mercedes, Opel, Ford and BMW. No, they've got real rivals here from Italy. On board here with Ludwig, fighting against Bernd Schneider in the 11 car. This is a real battle for 4th place. Outbraking his rival into this very damp combination. The rear ends twitching all over the place. Ludwig taking that 4th spot. Very, very tight indeed. A number of options coming in. Very few options coming out of the corners. The racing line guarded very, very closely indeed. Christian Danner, number 14, in the Alfa, setting the fastest lap of the race. The damp conditions not concerning him, it seems. Just look at him outbraking his rivals, powering his way through to that fastest lap. Moving past Ellen Law there in the Mercedes. Lap 5, Larini still ahead. Alessandro Nannini chasing him down, and they're into traffic. Well, Alfa sales have dramatically risen in Germany since the proven longevity of the Alfa Romeos on the track in DTM. Christian Danner moving by. Roland Ash in the Mercedes. And the domination of Alfa just seeming complete, particularly in these conditions somehow. So the battle then is between the leaders getting into traffic here, and side by side it's Larini and Nannini. And finally, it's Nannini that's going to win the battle. Will he win the war? Sadly, it's a problem for Nannini, slowing dramatically. And it's Larini that regains that first place. A sad sight indeed, Nannini having to retire. Well, such are the conditions, and the tyres starting to go off. The racing line maybe just drying out a little bit in places, particularly in heavy traffic. Dana taking a shortcut through the chicane, and Dana approaching Giudici here and taking a spin. Well, Dana all over the place, perhaps with some mud left on his tyre tracks. The wets, of course, picking up the muds when they get to it. Lap 23, Larini still leading and twitching all over the place. Very, very difficult to keep control in these conditions. Larini, though, heading for victory here in Zolder. Well won indeed in atrocious conditions. So race 2 and conditions a little better. It seems that an awful lot of the rain has passed us by. Windscreen wipers working, not quite as dramatically as before as we go green here. Race order from the finish of the opening race carried over to race 2. And an awful lot of moisture still on the track. You can see the leader without his windscreen wipers going. It's a luxury of being out in front. A clear screen for the number 8. Well, clear it may be up front, but it's an absolute cloud that everyone is driving into behind. Giorgio Francia in the Alfa going out. And the marshals on hand nice and quickly. Real scrap between Jorg van Omen on the Mercedes and the T7 Nannini in the backup car. This is a scrap for third place, and just look at that. Having a look down the inside, determined to get back on his mount. Nannini taking a back seat just for now. Well, a little bit of blocking perhaps, but all fair in love and war. And a fair degree of contact there is in DTM. Lights ablaze, wipers going crazy, and the Alfa just has the edge on the straight line. Can he carry it through the combination? Yes, he can. The T7 backup working beautifully for Nannini, who lost his battle for first place in the opening race here.
Io spero
Nicola Larini.
che in futuro ci sia sempre la pista asciutta, perché possa dire la sua anche la Mercedes. C'è più interesse, c'è più bagarre.
Ok, grazie Nicola.
A 1-2-3 for Alfa. Nicola Larini just speaking there of his pleasure, finishing ahead of Dana and Nannini. Well, that was Zolder. This is Hockenheim, rounds 3 and 4, and what a dramatic start for Mercedes. Not what they would have hoped for. Desperate to get back on terms with Alfas. Ellen Law, one of those involved, the number 2 Mercedes, and the number 25, the first champion of DTM in 1984, Volker Streisek in the Opel. A red flag ensued. Underway once again. The Alfas going for it and straight into the dust. All that kitty-litty being thrown up by Nannini. A cloud for others to drive into, and he held the line beautifully. It looked like the wrong choice, but it worked well for him. So dust from oil damage. Oil spilling from some of those damaged cars. Just look at the smile on his face. A wise line it was, and one that wasn't a popular one to take. Ludwig in third place behind Nannini and Larini. Well, no problems with the rain this time, but a very, very dramatic start to this race, and other problems were to come. Ludwig, in particular, was to have an unlucky retirement. Due to fire, as you will see. The crowd absolutely thrilled and cheering the field past. And the number one car, the man they were cheering on, using every inch of the circuit before the cataclysm. Bursting into flames and putting down plenty of fluid on the surface, as you can see. Ludwig going out in dramatic style. And that fluid causing trouble. Number 13, Jürgen Fucht, in his Ford Mustang GT in front of Giorgio Francia. Nannini leads, but he has his own problems, and getting it a little bit long on the braking into the first curve, straight into the gravel, and the cheers go up from a huge crowd here in Hockenheim. He's off, and it means that Bernd Schneider is leading. Well, Nannini heading straight back to the pits. Larini with his problems on track, as you can see. The skid plates throwing up the sparks due to that puncture. Schneider is then that takes the victory, much to the delight of crew and crowd. Second race in Hockenheim. Schneider at the front, courtesy of a fine drive in the opening race. And the Alphas are playing a game of catch-up if they can avoid the traffic jams. Larini closing his man down and moving past Roland Asch's Mercedes. Pushing the car so deep into that corner there. The sparks are flying, but it's Schneider that has the victory once more. From Hockenheim to the Nürburgring. And the three main contenders on this beautiful track: the Alfa 155 V6 T1, the Mercedes 190E Class 1, and the BMW 325i Coupe. Wonderful machinery about to get bruised. Bernd Schneider is on pole and looking very, very pleased with himself. We get an onboard of the rolling starts. We're with the three car of Kurt Timm, the 1986 DTM champion. On board a Mercedes, of course. You can tell from the dashboard. Schneider it is that holds on to first place. Alphas making up the centre of the field as we come down to the first series of bends. Very difficult spot in front of the crowd, and you can see just how much of the gravel had been used before. We're on board with Nannini. Wonderful pictures. The 7 car taking a pirouette. Well, Dana just getting his braking a little wrong. It's caught so many out so often. You can see the runoff marks there in the gravel. The crowd cheering. The bad luck. More problems for Alfa as Mercedes take the battle to each other. Larini and Van Ommen, though, scrapping it out for first place. And it will be Larini that's heading for his third win of the season. The wide open curves of the Nürburgring providing high-speed entertainment, loved by all. So race 2, and Tim and Nannini about to get us underway. Nerves perhaps? Well, a few smiles as well. Cars just warming up, coming round for the start now. A wonderful start-finish straight this. Under the bridge and underway. Our onboards with Tim and Nannini at this point. Wonderful low-down shots. You can see just how much of the rumble strips and beyond the cars use in order to get what little advantage they possibly can. The field starting to string out movement on the inside by the 14 car on board with Tim. And contact between Tim and Schneider. Well, Schneider saying that he's not happy about Tim's attitude. And he thinks he should have won.
Okay, danke.
Not a very happy face, it has to be said, from Schneider. And not happy either for Jörg Van Ommen. A spin for the number 4 car. Just getting it too dirty, coming into contact as well. Difficult on the number 4. And Van Ommen in the pits. Not happy either, but maintaining the smile, if only just. Quick smoke for number 14, Dana. It's another retirement for the Alfa. And Ludwig going in deep with the number 1 car, overtaking the 8 car of Larini, and indeed taking the lead right in front of the grandstand. Schneider is just behind. Schneider seeking his chance. Larini, his mind active, lively, shaken awake perhaps. But second place is now under threat. The crowd cheer. Larini, well, the question is, has he got problems? And the answer is yes. Larini later saying, couldn't do anything about that, it's just a mechanical problem.
Ho cercato di fare ancora un giro, ma ho visto che il motore calava sempre di più.
A win for Ludwig, just in front of Schneider. Wunstorf in Germany. Rounds 7 and 8. And the Alfa seem to have got themselves sorted out. Larini on pole and beautifully away. So quick off the mark and holding on to first place. Well, busy at the back of the field once more. Some of the markers being remodelled. Kurt Tim attacking Larini. Side by side here, coming down to a very tough corner, sorting themselves out just before they arrive. Larini, though, going very, very wide at that section, breaking problems once again and just nipping in. Tim. Well, Larini had to stop saying they suddenly had a problem, but could go on.
non mi ha permesso di fare la traiettoria.
And continue he did. Larini regaining second place, overtaking Jorg van Ormen. And then the chase was on to close down Kurt Tim. Larini regaining top spot. And later on it was to be a battle along with his old fellow adversary in red, Nannini. Larini warming to the challenge, taking his fourth win of the season in front of Nannini and Tim. Start of the second race in Wunstorf, and once again difficulties in the pack as the field starts to come together. Some leaping cars at the front, and it was more problems for those behind. Nannini though with that air jump losing 3 spots. On board with Bernd Schneider as Nannini heads back to the pits. Problems at the front end. Bigger problems for others. Watch this. Wow. Werner Lenk and his slightly remodeled BMW M3. The Armco doing its job, taking energy out, but also launching the vehicle. And a red flag ensued. Safely out. Well, the problems for the Alphas continued, and indeed it was to be retirement for Larini and a spin for Nannini. One of the nicest battles between Klaus Ludwig and Christian Danner.
Der Christian hat sich hinten am Ende der Schnellen wahnsinnig verbremst. Mir war
Ludwig saying, yeah, there was definitely contact between us.
Und ja gut, dann habe ich halt eben versucht dran zu bleiben, dann habe ich mich hier ein bisschen verbremst und bin ihm auch ganz leicht rangekommen und dann hat er sich gedreht.
Danner spinning off after a little help from Ludwig. Tim taking it though. And we can take a look at the championship standings after round 8 of 22 races, 11 venues. Larini leading on 97 points, Ash nearest to him on 85. The old and the long tracks at the Nürburgring providing the entertainments for round 9 and 10 of the DTM season 1993. Jorg van Ormen on pole, race 1. And Larini is leading in front of an awful lot of Mercedes, as you can see. The Nürburgring old track, the long track, full of wonderful graffiti, so many messages throughout the years. Drivers coming out with their paint cans, marking their braking points, etc. All sorts of history here. And some great racing. Under the sunshine then at the Nürburgring. And the luckiest man of all, Larini, heading for victory in the opening round. His 5th in 9 races. Larini, a familiar sight with the lights ablaze and the checkered flag dropping. Race 2 then at the Nürburgring. And guess who? Larini leading in front of Ludwig. Van Ommen also involved, and the dust is flying. Despite its dips and twists, an incredibly high-speed circuit, the Nürburgring. Perfect for DTM. A thrilling arena then in near perfect conditions. A light breeze cooling the crowds as the temperatures start to rise, not only on the track, but the ambient temperature as well. Wonderful sky cam. Great upstairs, great down below as well. On board with Larini, just look at him wrestle with this circuit. And battles throughout the field, but Nannini, Denner and Schneider really having a crack at each other here. At these speeds, an accident is never very far away. And the barriers doing their job once more. The crash nets saving the crowd from unpleasant contact with their heroes. Another win for Larini, his 6th in 10 races. The Norris Ring then, rounds 11 and 12. Well, if you thought everything was going Larini's way, think again. The car on fire during practice. And it's to be Kurt Timm that takes the pole. Larini will start at the back. So Larini with an awful lot of work to do. Two Mercedes team, Zach Speeds, Timm and Van Ommen at the head. Well, Larini likes nothing more than a challenge, but just how much of a challenge is this? Such a tightly packed field on the Norris Ring. Some amazing hairpins and some fabulous grandstand viewing positions, as you can see. Well, Larini took the challenge and started to move up a few places. Just watch a master at work. On board with Bernd Schneider. In front of him we see the number 1 of Klaus Ludwig and the number 2 car of Ellen Law. She's been taking the battle to the men right throughout this season, making a great account of herself. And a bump between the 21, George Severich in the BMW M3, and the 29, also a BM, Mark Gindorf. Bodywork damage for Klaus Ludwig as well. It's rough out there. And it really is getting scrappy in the minor places. Kurt Koenig and his BMW into Jürgen Vogt and his Ford Mustang. Very, very tight. Just look how close-knit the field is. On board with Schneider. It's busy. Very, very quickly into this corner, and a little bit too quick indeed. Roland Ash getting it all wrong, running wide. And Larini still on the march, moving past Ellen Law. Ellen getting into contact with Ash. Others getting it wrong on their own. A spin for Tim. And Larini having difficulties getting his braking right. Or maybe that was just a bit of robust challenging. Dana, though, moving past him. Larini moving through when the opportunity arises. This has been a remarkable performance by Larini. The odds stacked against him. His wife looking on. And Larini dramatically through. Guess what? To the lead. Well, Dana doesn't succeed in overtaking Van Orman for seconds. It's victory for Larini, 7th out of 11, and perhaps the most dramatic. Race 2 then. Larini is ahead of Tim and Giorgio Francia. A familiar sight, the red cars to the fore. And behind, the battle between Dana and number 12, Roland Ash. And contact, and that was Ash's fault. Getting heavy front damage and shunting his man wide. More like NASCAR than DTM. Bodywork damage then for Ash. Nobody to blame but himself. And the battle between Francia and Ludwig in his T1 backup. And a spin for the 15 car of Giorgio Francia. Very, very difficult course this. But the master of it, guess who? Off to Diepholz then. Races 13 and 14. And a meeting at Donington as well between the Norris Ring and Diepholz. First race in Donington, won by Christian Denner, who started from pole. The second race saw Nicola Larini win once more, 9th win of the season. For Diepholz indeed, rounds 15 and 16. It's Bernd Schneider on pole. Bad start for Schneider. Larini running wide as well at the first curve. Larini is only in 8th place. And not indeed having things all his own way. Contact between Larini and Armin Hahn. Both of them spinning off. And as if by magic, Nannini and Hahn getting into contact. And it's almost an action replay. The BMW rear axle taking a heavy hit. Nannini continuing. And battle for the leads. Number 12, Roland Ash, and the 3 car of Kurt Tim. Roland Ash moving through, and Ludwig about to pounce. Kurt Tim going down a couple of spots then. Roland Ash heading for victory, his first of the season. Race 2 at Diepholz. And the opening battle is between Ash and Ludwig. The Mercedes really finding their heads here. For once, the Alphas relegated to the middle of the pack. Question is, for how long. Larini famously loves to warm up during a race. And indeed, here he comes. Using all his guile. And Giudice is slowing in the 51 car, and there's traffic here. Wow, that was a heavy hit. Christian Danner square into it. Larini continuing his way, his merry way. Back markers starting to play a role here. Nobody likes to get lapped, of course. Oh dear, and that was a back marker who rather got in the way. Larini moving past Ludwig and into the lead. How often have we said that this season? And the fickle weather starting to play its hand. These tyres slick and towards the end of their life. Red flag and a win for Larini. 10th of the season. Well, sunnier climbs indeed in Singen for rounds 17 and 18. A very tight circuit, as you can see. Larini on pole and expected to stay there unless he has some difficulties. Well, difficulties indeed came very quickly. Van Ommen, though, coming off worst with that contact with Larini. His team none too pleased. Race over then for Jörg Van Ommen. Larini clearly out in front. And retirement as well for Harold Becker. The orange BMW once again in trouble. Well, some do it on their own, others get help, and contact between Werner Lenk and Ellen Law. Nose is chopped off, rear end's damaged. And Larini having his difficulties, having problems indeed, overtaking Stig Amthor. Well, on such a tight and twisty circuit, it's amazing that anyone managed to pass anybody. Larini heading for his 11th win of the season. Start of race 2 then, and Larini in front of Schneider. It was sticky at the beginning of the first race. Ooh, and almost sticky for the leaders. It was for those just behind, dragging the wheels, the tyres I should say, with them, and causing all sorts of havoc midfield. Great battle out front between Larini and Schneider, been raging all race. Almost like Monte Carlo in parts, this circuit. And Schneider, the master, it is, heading for victory here. Dramatic day's racing, it certainly was. What a fight it was out front. Get your exits right. And getting it very right indeed, Bernd Schneider. Fabulous stuff. Schneider's third win. First, though, since round 4. Larini Schneider sharing the champagne. Rounds 19 and 20. Avus, still in Germany, just outside Berlin. The track, very wet indeed. Nannini on pole. And leading us off, of course. After a little showboating in some of the vintage stuff, into the real cars and the real racing. Underway then. In the wet and at the back through the rain clouds. An accident. Contact into the barriers. The flags are waving. Klaus Ludwig back to the pits. Changing from wets to slicks. No rain falling and the racing line drying out. Ash does the same. And indeed it's a popular decision. The Alpha's about to come in. Teams working quickly, and the sooner you're on the right tyre for the conditions, the quicker you're going to be. Nannini also in. The pit lane, frantic. Larini also there. Those on the right rubber first with a huge advantage. And you can see the frustration of Larini, wishing he'd had the call earlier. It's a win for Roland Ash, his second of the season. 3 races though before the end of the season. Nicola Larini already declared champion. Race 2 at Avus, and some very late braking going on here. Number 14, Dana. Whoa, and straight in to the number 1 machine. Race-ending contact, if ever there was any. It's a win for Roland Ash, his second of the weekend, his third of the year. Norbert Haug, very pleased. And so to the final 2 rounds of the season. Where else but Hockenheim? First appearance of the new Opel Calibra V6 4x4 with Manuel Reuter and Keke Rosberg. It's a comeback in competition for Rosberg, being absent since 1991 season, where he was racing with Peugeot Sport. So Opel announcing its challenge. The famous moustache ready to do battle. So to the start of race 1, and it's Kurt Tim who's leading us. Dicey into the first series of bends, everyone cleanly through, and we're on board with Armin Hahn. Tim and Nannini scrapping it out early on. The speed's as high as ever in Hockenheim, and the dry conditions producing not only a heat haze but plenty of dust through the combinations. Tim and Nannini continuing their battle. And it's a nasty roll for Armin Bernhardt. Nannini through then. A position he adores naturally. Others having more difficulty through the combination. Reuter getting it a little bit wrong. New car, though, perhaps just bedding itself in. And another mistake, this time from Christian Danner. Into Van Ommen. And this time it'll be Nannini, his first win of the season. Amazing, he didn't get a win before this. So prominent had he been throughout. So Nannini carrying his win from the first into the lead of the second race here. The final round of the season. Retirements are plenty. Uwe Alsen was one of them. Keke Rosberg another. Teething trouble perhaps. And Nicola Larini, the champion. Bernd Schneider getting it very, very loose. Holding on beautifully though. And another win for Nannini, his second of the season. Making it a wonderful weekender. Alfa absolutely delighted. The champagne belonging to them. Larini the champion. Nannini getting 100% at Hockenheim at the end. Confirmation of how the season finished in 1993. Larini taking it ahead of Ash and Schneider. DTM, great racing, and of course the best of it here on Motors TV.